find a new way. Violence begets violence. We have failed. The policy has failed in the Middle East.
What would you do about ISIL? They are a vile, medieval, murderous, barbaric bunch of violent terrorists.
The most talked about radio show is here. Call Clegg. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Leading Britain's conversation. This is Call Clegg with Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Only on LBC.
Good morning. This is Nick Clegg with Call Clegg on LBC, and you can, of course, call me as ever. Do it right now if you want to get involved. The number is 0345 6060 973, 0345 6060 973, or you can email at nickclegg@lbc.co.uk. And, of course, you can watch on lbc.co.uk. So let's go straight to our first caller, Haidar in Epsom. Hello, Haidar.
Oh, hello. Good morning, Mr.
Morning.
Clegg. How are you today?
I'm all right.
Good, excellent. I'm a GP in and around London area, and I have really a major issue with all political parties in terms of how the NHS is working and funded. If you just allow me just a minute to go through a few things with you. We, at the current stage, general practice needs 10,000 GPs to keep the current working. Weekends are all welcomed. No GP, no human being will object that patients cannot see their doctors at the time they want and they prefer. And I think in a coalition yesterday, well, I think David Cameron was speaking for the Conservatives on his own, really, in terms of it is not civilised to for patients to be only seen from Monday to Friday because illness doesn't have a limit. And he wanted to bring in Saturdays and Sundays, 8 to 8.
I have to move you to a question, Haidar. It's Nick Ferrari here, by the way. I have to move you to a question because everybody wants to speak to the Deputy Prime Minister. I'm sorry, sir, but thank you.
No, that's fine. I think the question is where are we going to get GPs if at the moment newly qualified doctors are refusing to come into general practice? Last year, 450 newly qualified GPs refused.
Stay on the line. Let's get into Mr. Clegg's reaction.
Let me try and answer some of it. I mean, firstly, I'm acutely aware that many GPs, some of them I know personally, some of them I know obviously through my work in politics, are feeling under considerable pressure, and you quite rightly say that if you're a GP feeling a little bit under pressure, you kind of just don't want to hear politicians constantly pile on the pressure by making pledges which you think aren't deliverable. So let's just sort of forget pledges for a minute and let's just actually examine what's happened. The fact is there are 1,000 more GPs now than there were when this coalition government came into office, and that there are thousands more GPs in the pipeline being trained to become GPs. You say, I'm assuming you'll say, Haidar, but that's not enough. Well, look, I perfectly accept we need to expand the number of GPs, expand the number of trainees who want to become GPs, and, of course, make the vocation. It is a vocation, as you know as well as I do. My grandfather was a GP, and I know quite what a kind of lifetime's commitment it is. It's not just a sort of job for many GPs. You need to make that vocation an attractive one. All I would say to you, Haidar, is that yes, we need to train up more GPs. There are thankfully more GPs than there were even 4.5 years ago, but we need more. I accept that challenge. But I would also say to you that one of the big changes in the NHS recently, controversial though they have been, has actually all been about making sure that GPs play a bigger rather than smaller role in the NHS by playing a bigger role in deciding where resources go in the NHS. For far, far too long, as you all know better than I do, decisions about where money is allocated in the NHS was taken by, in fact, entirely unaccountable local bureaucracies, these primary care trusts that used to exist. We've now, as you know, put the authority to decide where money goes in the NHS into the hands of clinicians, GPs and others. Now, any change can be disruptive, at least for a temporary period of time, but that principle of giving GPs and clinicians the whip hand in deciding where money goes to in the NHS so that they can serve patients better and not simply just hospitalise patients, I think is a very important change and a positive one in the long run.
Quick response from you, Haidar.
Well, it's all good. I mean, as I said, the theory is brilliant, and we take part in running next year is absolutely a joke. The Royal College of General Practitioners has announced we are 10,000 less GPs. Why doesn't politician listen to those professionals? Why don't why don't politicians ask their patient, why can't you see a doctor?
Sure.
So,
I accept the challenge, if you like, on behalf of the political class. I also just gently would suggest to you that you must also accept the challenge that there are GP surgeries which already open, in the evenings and at weekends. So there's already a level of innovation which you see in some GP surgeries which you don't in others. And we're perfectly entitled, as sort of members of the public, to ask how can we make sure that kind of access, increased access to GPs in one part of town is replicated in another part of town. That's a legitimate question, it seems to me. On the cost pressures on the NHS, of course I accept either. Everybody does. That as you have an ageing population, you have an increasingly large number of people who are in hospital beds for a long period of time dealing with age-related conditions. That puts a huge amount of financial pressure on an NHS which was designed, bluntly, many decades ago, for a different population where people didn't live as long and didn't have such long age-related conditions. That is the challenge we face in this country. It's, by the way, a challenge that all healthcare systems across the developed world faces as the ageing population changes the kind of demography of our nation.
Haydar, thank you. We must move on to other matters. Mr. Clegg, where are we going now?
David in Rainham. Hello, David.
David, speak. David, quickly. No? No last chance. I'll take this one straight through to Claire in Reigate. Speak to Nick Clegg. Go ahead, Claire.
Hi, Nick.
Hello, Claire.
What do you think of them taking away tax discs?
Say that again?
They're taking away tax discs now that you put in your window.
Well, they're making they're putting it onto an electronic thing. Well, look, clearly, if you're one of the many people who couldn't get onto the DVLA website and get it...
No, I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
My traffic wardens, they're now enforcement officers, and community wardens, just looked in the window to see if it was taxed or not. What they can do, check every car?
So I say that again, Claire?
Well, traffic wardens and community wardens just looked in the windscreen, and they could see whether people were taxed or not. So they're not going to check every car to see if they're taxed, are they?
Well, they had to do that, of course, when they were looking at each tax disc.
What they'll have now, of course, you've got to realise, Claire, there's a central computer database which
you just
I
printed
call them
the number
traffic
plate,
wardens, whatever. Anyway, they'll have access. So much as they could see in the old days whether or not the car is registered, they'll have access virtually to the same. Well, they'll have access to the same database.
But they do it through the number plate. So basically,
that's right.
They printed the number plate, and then electronically they'll be able to see whether the car is taxed or not. I'm not sure, to be honest, Claire, whether that, from a traffic warden's point of view, is any more laborious than actually craning your neck to see the disc in the front, in the front window.
One nasty thing is if you buy a car in the middle of the month, Mr. Clegg, I thought I'd make you aware of this, you no longer get the refund for any months that were left, and you have to re-tax the car yourself. So you buy a car. Are you
speaking, Mr. Ferrari, from personal experience?
No, I bought a car a couple of years ago. I bought one that uses as much petrol as it possibly can. I rev it until the starlings fall out of the trees on a regular basis. We move on to other
Jeremy Clarkson, eat your heart out. Here's the real gas guzzler.
We move on to other calls.
Kim in Eltham. Hello, Kim.
Yes, hello there. Good morning, Nick. And basically, my question to you is, why do we have to go to Iraq to tackle what you call it ISIS, when we have so much radicalism taking place in United Kingdom? Because I have seen it with my own eyes, what happens in the city of London. I hear it all the time, what people are telling me, those people who this great country welcomed with open arms, gave them house, gave them food, gave them free education. And when I talk to them, I know what they are telling me about this great country.
All right, let's get
okay, Kim. I guess my response is twofold, Kim. Firstly, because we've been asked to. A plea of help went out from a government in a Muslim country in Iraq and said we need help to deal with these lunatics. They're doing a lot of the fighting on the ground, or all the fighting on the ground, the Iraqi army and the Peshmerga in the north, the Kurdish north of Iraq. But they said to the international community, help us from the skies. We need your help. And that is what we're responding to. And I think, in a sense, there's lots of complexity to this, but that was a rather simple choice. Do you respond to a plea for help or not? The second thing is, because, Kim, unfortunately, we know that what goes on over there has an effect over here as well. They're not two separate worlds, as you suggest, Kim. It's not just a question of sort of looking after our own, so to speak, and hoping that the problem further afield will disappear. We know that there are lots and lots of, unfortunately, impressionable youngsters whose minds have been warped by this vile ideology by these barbarians in ISIL who go to Syria and Iraq. And we've even seen, have you seen in the papers over the last couple of days, this report of this 15-year-old girl
from Bristol.
They fear, exactly, who Somerset and Avon police fear may have gone to Syria or Iraq. And of course, I mean, never mind what happens to them there, the great sort of fear, and I was talking to the Metropolitan Commissioner, Bernard Hogan, how about this last week? The fear is, of course, if they come back, they will then seek to do us harm here, Kim. So, look, in this world, this is a problem like so many other problems in this world. We're all connected. This, we can't cut ourselves off from what's going on, even though it might seem quite remote and far away.
But to those who say that by allying ourselves with America, which is seen as the great foe, potentially we put more British citizens at risk, and we perhaps, in a way, enforce these jihadist ambitions or desires to come back and wreak havoc here in Britain. What would you say?
Well, I'd say to that is that before we even had the debate in the House of Commons, they were chopping off the heads of innocent Brits. I mean, what more evidence do you need that it wasn't our decision to participate? And by the way, participate in a kind of jigsaw of military activity, which is it goes much wider than our participation. So we're providing some airstrikes in Iraq, but as you know, that there are a number of Arab states, very important, this Sunni Arab states in addition.
Is it right that Turkey is now signing up?
No, I think today the vote is about, in the Turkish Parliament, I need to check, I think the vote today is about whether Turkey will accept military ground active from foreign soldiers on their soil.
How key might that be if Turkey in some way joins?
I think Turkey is absolutely crucial because of their location, huge border with the area of conflict with Syria, because of the huge numbers of people coming into Turkey fleeing ISIL, and because of the possibility, if you like, of people going into Turkey to do damage to Turkey, or indeed further afield in the west, or indeed people using Turkey as a transit. This girl we were talking about earlier, I think I'm right in saying that Somerset and Avon police saw that she'd gone with a friend
from Lambeth
to Istanbul.
To Istanbul. Yeah,
so it is the frontline state. It is the great ally, if you like, for us in the region. And remember, most importantly, perhaps of all, it is a member of NATO. And so it is of disproportionate importance, Turkey. And our relationship with Turkey, which is very strong and very close, I think is of huge significance right now.
So you must have cheered to the echo on the subject of trying to stop this extremism and radicalism in this country. Cheered to the echo the speech by Home Secretary Theresa May.
No, I did not. I thought it was one of the most misleading and outrageous platform speeches I've heard in conference season for a very long period of time.
Trying to crack down on extremists.
No. I thought what you were going to refer to, which was her, I thought, absolutely appalling. I mean, really, this is a new low point in coalition relations. Her suggestion that the fact that the Liberal Democrats had said no to the Snoopers Charter, which you'll remember was the proposal from Theresa May that the state should be able to store every website, Nick Ferrari, that you ever visit over a year, putting children at risk, when, of course, their facts turn out to be the case, quite different. That the reason the National Crime Agency had to drop some of these cases was because IP addresses were not properly matched to individual mobile devices. And if we go back to your archives, you will discover that I've been saying for months that is a problem we should deal with. And guess who has been dragging their feet to do something about it? The Home Office. So I think I'm entitled to feel a little bit aggrieved to hear a Conservative Home Secretary somehow claim that my party is putting children at risk when it's their inactivity which is doing just that.
Have you had a conversation with her yet?
I have made it very, very clear to her that I expect an apology from her for making such a false and outrageous claim.
How do you do that as Deputy Prime Minister? You contact her office?
No, she's obviously been busy in wherever they were. And I'll be going to Glasgow. No, I've sent her a letter.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Strong letter?
Yep.
Very strong?
Yes.
Like
I know. Listen. I'm not going to look.
Often,
as you know, I try and be very discreet and sort of all the rest of it about the kind of yaboo or the disagreements which might happen in government. I think to say about another politician, particularly someone you're governing with, you are putting children at risk when it's not true, is a level of sort of outrageous misinformation I have to say I've not witnessed in the 4.5 years I've been in this government.
Shall we move on, Deputy Prime Minister?
Andrew in Docklands.
Yes, hello there, Nick. Ferrari was talking earlier about, if you lower taxes, you get an optimum tax take. And it was it's Art Laffer, the famous economist, not that I agree with very much else he said, but it proves, and it's a pretty...
Are you an economist, Andrew?
Thing. I'm I've run businesses for many years, and I've got a great interest in how the banking system works.
You're also on a very dodgy phone line, by the way.
Your question,
yes.
What's your question, my friend?
Well, let me get to my question is, so I know that you don't think, or perhaps I've got you wrong, but the question came out that you wouldn't lower taxes until you saw what the optimum tax rate was. And I feel that this is something that people who live off of taxes, and of course our banking system, our government system, and all these things are there living on taxes. They're not producing a profit for the economy.
So would it actually work? Okay, I'm sorry, Andrew. This reminds me, the quality is really poor. People struggling. It was one of my contributors saying this fantastic tax giveaway that the Prime Minister spoke of yesterday.
The Lib Dem policy.
No, it's the Conservative leader. I think
No. It's just sort of catch up, Charlie.
I was watching the Conservative Party. I don't know.
I've been watching the Labour and the Conservative Party conference, or as much as I can bear. And the picture that has emerged, you've got one party, the Labour Party, with no new ideas, and another party with no new ideas of their own.
At last, a real Tory premier. Cameron's £7 billion tax away to the middle classes. More for the middle. Cameron makes his offer. Here comes the sun. You won't be surprised. Cameron gives 30 million people a tax cut. Universal praise.
Yes. Well, it's not, of course, what they've been saying for the last 4.5 years to Danny Alexander and myself. Every time Danny Alexander and I said, look, we've got to raise the tax allowance, and David Cameron and George Osborne both would say, Nick, this is your tax break. Why do you want to have this tax break? You're going to have to give some other concession to us. But anyway, look, there you go. If imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, then we're making progress.
You were furious as you listened to Theresa May. As you listened to the Prime Minister, what was your reaction yesterday?
No, not furious. Listen, clearly a well-delivered speech, and obviously a very well-received speech if you look at the front pages today. I think it was a cynical speech because one thing we know from the Conservative Party conference now is two things. We now know two things for absolutely sure, which is that if the Conservatives were ever to become majority government, and God help us if there's either a Labour or Tory-only government in this country after 2015, but if there were, two things would absolutely happen. We know for sure. The working poor would become poorer. With almost sort of undisguised relish, George Osborne announced that in his speech, that they wouldn't ask people very wealthy people to pay a single extra penny in tax to help fill the black hole.
The rich have never paid more than they are now.
No, exactly. No, the axe will fall. The Conservatives have been very clear. The axe will fall because there's always a price tag to everything, remember? Any giveaway, any unfunded giveaway, which we heard from David Cameron, has to be paid for. And the Conservative answer is the only people who pay, the only section of the population they will pick is the working age poor. And the second thing we now know is that public services like social care, the police and other things that people really rely on will be absolutely decimated and cut to the bone because they refuse to ask anyone on much, much higher incomes to make any contribution as we complete the job of filling the black hole to our public finances. So, well delivered, great aplomb, great praise. I really think it is going to unravel big time over the next 7 months because the British people want us to finish the job, of course, but they want us to finish the job fairly. And I think the more they look at this, they won't understand why the Conservative Party appears to be giving with one hand and taking with the other. And I think I've seen this before in politics. I've now been in politics long enough that things that are praised to the rafters are often precisely the commitments that then unravel the most later.
And Andrew's point of we explored this, the idea of this, I think it's called the Lasser curve, isn't it? That in fact you get in more revenue.
Look at you. Yeah.
I stayed up last night reading up on it. I felt this might come up.
You're economics primer.
Honestly, and if you want the coefficient of linear expansion, I can do that for you on Friday. Is there any truth to
from your gas guzzler?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's a big engine. It's 4.8. Is there any truth? Is it true that if you do in fact increase the tax take, or is all just a load of old fooey? Would you say
that what?
That you increase the tax take? Actually, if you lower taxation, you get in more revenue. This idea.
Of course, there's some truth to that, and also the reverse. That if you increase taxes to a certain amount, you get to sort of diminishing returns. I think there's a.
So what are we going to hear from you next week about tax, Mr. Clegg?
Quite a lot. But I'm afraid.
Can you give me a clue?
No. You'll have just the suspense.
I'm there.
I know.
I can't wait.
I'm very grateful to the other party. They've created this drum roll of their own conferences before the real meat and potatoes of the conference season takes place.
Do you feel frustrated going in not in third place? I'm sorry, that's just the way the conferences go.
No, actually, normally we're first.
Yes.
We moved our conference because there was this little thing called the Scottish referendum.
Oh,
which
I see.
Yeah.
So is there a degree of frustration?
No, not at all. No, actually, in many ways, as I said, from my point of view, it couldn't be more ideal because you've had a Labour Party herring off leftwards, and with a leader who has forgotten to mention the biggest issue of all the economy, and you got the Tory party herring off in a right-wing direction. I actually think there are a lot of people in Britain who want who want head and heart. They don't want this false choice between either economic incompetence or this kind of very kind of cruel approach to society that you see from the Conservatives. I think they want both. They want a party that can fix things, but fix things fairly, and that's the pitch we'll be making. We'll be explaining a whole bunch of stuff around that. But no, the point I was going to make about
written
tax...
the speech yet?
What I've been sort of playing around with it a bit. Yeah.
How many people help you?
Not that many. I talked to a number of people.
Oh, you don't go wandering around Hampstead Heath talking to...
Well, I do. I met someone the other day who said that she thought the Laffer was really... It was absolute nonsense. And amazingly, she reeled off a number of Lib Dem. Yes. I meet people in the park all the time who are like floating voters for Lib Dem.
I've got to give you this because I thought it was so funny. I talked to somebody who said after Ed Miliband's speech, he said he wanted 10 years.
Was he called Gareth?
Yeah. No, he wanted 10 years. His best chance was armed robbery.
No, but sorry, can I make a serious point? Which is a much bigger point, which is slightly different to this, do you get more tax revenues in when you lower them, or do you lose them as you put them up? There's a bigger point, which is that quite a lot of the things we try and tax in this modern footloose, fancy-free economy of ours are increasingly difficult to tax. And so what you've got, what the economists and... Was it Andrew? Yeah, Andrew.
Yes, Andrew.
Hopefully still listening, I think would recognise, is you've got what is called a shrinking tax base. In other words, the things we try and tax are incredibly difficult to tax because they're easy to avoid and not tax. And that's why, for instance, this whole issue of how you tax bricks and mortar, because they can't be offshore to the Cayman Islands, is so important. You've got to, in the long run, have a tax base which can support public services not just today, but in decades to come. And I think that's a big issue that future governments will have to deal with.
We must move to other calls. We've talked too long. Mr. Clegg,
Mark in Brentwood. Hello, Mark.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I wanted to ask your point of view on the fact that European residents with non-European spouses are allowed to live in the UK, whereas English people with non-European spouses have to go through immigration regulations.
Mark, are you talking about if someone wants to come...
if, for example, myself has a South American wife...
Right. From where, just out of interest?
Brazil.
Brazil, right, yeah.
But if a European... My cousins are Spanish. If they married a Brazilian, they can come straight and live in the country, whereas UK citizens have to go through immigration, apply for a spouse visa, and Europeans don't. They can just come and live here.
And the Brazilian spouse of the Spaniard doesn't
It doesn't matter. Whether it's Brazilian, South American, African, Thailand, anywhere, they have to get a spouse visa.
Mark, can I look into that and get back to you, Mark? Because, as you know, we have dramatically tightened up the number of people coming from outside the European Union, and I think that covers the point. I think the point you're making about your own situation, but you'll obviously be able to tell me better than I would know, is that we have introduced new rules that if you want to. If someone wants to bring in a husband or wife from outside the European Union, they need to show that they've got certain earnings, which means that spouse would not be relying upon benefits upon arrival in the United Kingdom. So I don't know whether that's the change of rules that you're referring to.
Mark, stay on the line. Talk to one of my team who then passes it, and I assure you will get a response from the deputy.
You will,
because we always hope he'll forget, but unfortunately his team always remember. One day we might catch him. So stay on the line, Mark. We'll take the details.
Martin in Bromley. Hello, Martin.
Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Hello.
Just a quick question, Mr. Clegg. My 4-year-old boy started school a fortnight ago, and just in passing conversation, he mentioned that he wasn't allowed to eat sausages at school. When my wife questioned the teacher, we were told quite frankly that pork was never going to be served in this school because it goes against some other members of the community.
Right. Well, Martin, without obviously knowing your school, where it is, what's the mix, what headmaster...
Would it make a difference, Deputy Prime Minister?
It doesn't matter where it is. It's
would it
school
matter?
in South London.
Well, look, I don't know whether they provide other kind of sausages. They have beef sausages, or do they not provide sausages at all? Or
well, my question is why is my son being denied pork? It's nothing against him or his religion, but because it offends other people and other religions. They say, we just won't do it.
Sure.
Well, journalistically,
but Martin, you can ask. I mean, I'm assuming you're doing this anyway. You can easily ask the school to make sure that those children who don't eat pork because of religious grounds aren't given pork sausages, and your son and other children at the school I mean, that seems to me entirely for the school to do.
Martin, I'd like you to talk to one of my colleagues now, because we will take that up with the school. I've never actually heard of that before. I've heard that there is always a halal alternative, and indeed sometimes a kosher alternative, which I think we'd all support. The idea there'd never be any pork products, but if that's what you're saying, we don't know. It's a bit unfair to the Deputy Prime Minister. Let's find out more about... Sorry, unless I didn't mean to cut you off. No. Say any more. Can I just do a couple of emails that are coming in?
Yes.
Rebecca in Bexley. Now that the police have confirmed that Alice Gross has been murdered, what does Nick Clegg say about the free movement of Europeans with regard to the Latvian suspect? Let's change that. This is, of course, Scotland Yard confirming they're looking for Arnis Zalkans, who, of course, is known to have murdered his wife, and we'll call him a suspect here, Rebecca.
So, Rebecca, forgive me, as Nick Ferrari just anticipated, I've got to be a little bit careful to make assumptions when this is now aimed...
But the free movement of people...
Well, we talked about this last week. I think, Rebecca, the point here is... Clearly, if someone has committed a very serious crime in one European Union country, and look, by the way, this could be about Brits who've committed terrible crimes here, been to prison, released from prison, are free to go, then the question is, once you've done your time, are you then free, like everybody else, to travel elsewhere in the European Union? I think it's probably not reasonable to say, well, no, you've done your time, and you're not, and you have to then be sort of imprisoned, if you like, within the cliffs of Dover, so to speak. But here's the big thing, and this is where I think the fundamental flaw is, Rebecca. At least the police and the probation authorities and the judicial authorities should be exchanging systematically information. It's really easily done, this, because everybody's got databases of the serious criminals who've done their time. That should be made available, it seems to me, on a database which is accessible to all European Union member states, so that you know who's travelling across the European Union, what they've done in the past. I don't think, candidly, Rebecca, you can say when someone has done their time, you then kind of say they're kind of grounded, whether it's in the UK or elsewhere. I do think what is deeply flawed in the system at the moment, and that's why we are pushing very hard to change this and sort this out, is that there should be much, much more information exchanged so we know who has got a very serious criminal offence to their name.
One last one before we come back to the calls. This is from Norma in Leicester. Do you have a pair of paisley pyjamas?
No, I don't know. So I only laugh because I think I know who you're referring to, Norman. But it's so kind of wonderfully sort of British in a way that's the thing that people seem to be remembering more.
I can't believe I'm about to ask this. No. But do you wear pyjamas? I feel bad. I feel
you're
quite
not.
grimy.
Have you been asked to ask this?
No, I haven't actually. This is just one for myself. So I'll see someone about that question.
But they're not paisley.
We'll cut that when this goes out because it's not live.
They're ever so trendy.
So you wear. That story, though, this of course turns on the Minister Brooks Newmark, who had to resign after he was caught texting pictures of his nether regions. Was that fair journalistic enterprise, or was it entrapment?
I was right, he should resign completely.
But the Sunday Mirror newspaper that exposed the story...
Oh, well, no, but the Sunday Mirror, if I understand it correctly, have apologised to the women whose photos they used. Yeah. So, I mean, I think they've been quite upfront for that. And this new body... Ipso.
Yes, Ipso.
They said they're looking into it. But look, I'm not. I think it was right that he resigned because, for all reasons, frankly, he said, and I'm not. No, I'm going to start sort of. No. I'm not going to start second guessing how it came about. Except for, I think it was right by the sounds of it that the Sunday Mirror said to the women whose photos were used. Yeah.
Look, but was it a fishing trip? They tried a lot of Conservative MPs.
I'm not. I think it was right he resigned. It's right that Sunday Mirror did that. It's right that Ipso's looking at it now. I'm not going to start. I just think we've been through this so many times before. Like, the moment politicians start kind of giving a running commentary on what they think the press should and shouldn't do, the press.
I just think can we stop talking about your pyjamas? Should we just move on?
You raised it. You raised Paisley
after this. I'm going to need help. Yeah. Let's go to other calls.
You need a cleaner, greener car. Bob in Walton-on-Thames. Hello, Bob.
Oh, hello, Nick. Hello, Nick.
Hi. Hello, sir.
My question to you is, Nick, when are you going to start spouting proper Liberal Democrat policies? Oh. In other words, the policies that I voted for you in 2010. For the first time ever, I voted Liberal Democrat because you inspired me. And since then, you've disappointed me.
Right.
The Liberal Democrat Party seems to be a party of men for all seasons. Right. And if I'm to vote for you again, you've really got to start spouting the policies you spouted before.
Did you say spouting? Well, I can do better than spouting. Bob, I can do so much better than spouting. I can deliver policy after policy after policy after policy that you voted for. The fact that now people aren't going to be paying any income tax next April, until they earn 10,500 is because of us. The fact that we've got more young people on apprenticeships in this country than ever before is because of us. The fact that we've got the highest cash increase in the state pension ever is because of us. The fact we've got poor kids doing better in school because of the pupil premium is because of us. The fact that we've got young kids in primary school getting healthy meals at lunchtime is because of us. The fact that we've got 2-year-olds for the first time ever getting 15 hours of free preschool sport is because of us. The list goes on. I mean, look, Bob, I get the whole...
You know, he did that without notes.
I get the whole... the list goes on, Bob. Look, Bob, I get the whole thing about, you shouldn't have gone into coalition, all the rest of it. We went into coalition for very, very good reasons, because no one won the election. I wish I was Prime Minister, but I'm not. We didn't win the election, and the country was in real shtuck. And we pulled the country back from the brink, repaired the economy, and we've got hundreds of thousands of more people in employment because of what we did. I'm immensely proud of what we did. And so, Bob, I would say to you, I might not persuade you, but I'm incredibly proud of what we've done, and far from spouting stuff, we're delivering stuff, and we're going to deliver more if we're in government again after next May.
Now, I'm just going to interrupt the Deputy Prime Minister. I look forward to joining you at your conference in Glasgow, and I have to say I've done very well. I had a lengthy conversation with Nigel Farage in Doncaster. I spoke with the Prime Minister in Birmingham. Ed Miliband was too busy wandering around Hampstead Heath. But in my conversation with the Prime Minister, I did talk to him about your ongoing tennis challenge, and it would appear you've got him rattled. You keep beating my broadcasting partner Nick Clegg at tennis. This is
it's only been a couple of games.
This is becoming an embarrassment because he was captain of tennis at a very decent school. Can I put it to you, you're having some form of additional coaching, or you take extra training at weekends? Because on paper he should win. Prime Minister, how do you do it?
Well, it's not dodgy line calls. That's an option, obviously, but no, it's not. I love playing tennis, and I do have
serving machines.
No, I have the odd lesson when I get a moment. I find it a good way of staying fit and keeping your eye on the ball.
Right.
But luckily, so I've played Nick twice, and so far it's 2-0. I think it's time to hang the racket up and not have another game.
Oh, you can't be saying that. No, seriously.
Yeah.
But he was.
He's running.
You've got him rattled.
He's running scared.
Yeah, you've got him running scared on every front.
He nicks my policies and won't charge me. Won't play me at tennis.
No new balls.
Got him on the run.
No new balls for the Prime Minister. But aware that, of course, you sometimes need a tennis partner.
Yes.
I was wondering if I could drag you into something called Global's Make Some Noise, which is, of course, Global is the parent company of LBC, and Make Some Noise is a national charity helping disadvantaged youngsters across the country. It's almost like I'm reading this, and we'd love you to get involved and help raise as much money as you can. Is there any...
By playing tennis?
Yeah. That's
with whom?
Well, not with me, actually. I was thinking of actually being the ball boy.
Yes.
And you could write all the Lib Dem policies on the back of my pants, on my arse, because it'd be so much you could do the whole bloody... So every time I bent down to pick... vote this and you'll get lower tax, and vote this and more education.
That'll give Bob a shot.
But no, I might be the umpire. And what I've thought is...
Yes.
We have someone working in the studios for a sister station called Andrew Castle.
Of course.
Former Britain #1.
Absolutely.
What we're going to do is, if you and Andrew...
You don't want me to play against Andrew.
Yes,
He'd wipe the floor. Oh, you do?
Yes, that's right. What we're going to do is we're going to auction off to the highest bidder, you and Andrew, and someone will pay money to be your partner and bring his or her friend along. Obviously, if it's
I can't play with Andrew.
No, you'll play against Andrew.
Right.
And these two people will have the... But I will be the umpire.
Right.
So any dodgy line...
I might need some help. I might need some help from the umpire's chair.
So if
I would love to do that. Yes, I'd love to do it. When is that? I'd love to do that.
The auction takes place next week. It's all for Make Some Noise. Can we sign you up?
Yes.
You're a good egg. Thank
Fantastic.
you. And I promise you, all the dodgy line calls will go your way.
I'll need it. I'll need it against Andrew Castle.
Andrew Castle is there. Nick Clegg is there. We'll tell you how you can get involved in Make Some Noise. Nick Clegg, thank you. I will see you in Scotland. Thank you very much indeed for taking part in Call Clegg here on LBC.
All next week, LBC will be coming together for Global's Make Some Noise to change young lives.
My name is Ezra, and I'm 11.